am Lizzy Eaton. I'm the director and founder of Oddity Events and Marketing. We are a small but perfectly formed corporate events agency. We help organisations implement really interesting and impactful events into their communications and marketing strategies. We have a particular specialism in engaging with high profile and elite audiences, and we like to challenge our clients when they usually say this audience is used to X, Y and Z event format. We like to try and challenge them and say, even if these MPs or journalists or whoever are used to this format, it doesn't mean that they don't deserve an interesting experience. So we try and punch a bit of personality into events for high profile audiences. I started Oddity in the summer of 2018, completely on my own with no money. I used to work at a PR firm where I was head of events, and I noticed that I'd sort of come to the end of my career there. I wasn't learning anything else, and I thought I could probably do this on my own. So with the support of my friends and my husband, I started off on my own, and a year and a half down the line, I have two lovely team members, and we have just won an award for the best startup events agency, which was wonderful. And we're just currently trying to navigate this new situation that we find ourselves in, and still try and be relevant to our clients and support them in the best way that we can. So yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Nice. All right. And what's it like going from, you're in a big PR agency to setting up your own business? What goes through the mind, and what are the challenges that you face there?
It's a bit frightening, because you realise suddenly that when you've come from an organisation, you don't realise, you take quite a few things for granted. Like, say for example, if you have a problem client who's not paying you, or you're not sure who to ask about a really specific thing, you have to trust your own instincts. And when you're an entrepreneur, your confidence can wane day by day. Some days you have a great day and you've made loads of money, and then another day something's happened. Say for example, you just can't understand how accounting works, and it's making you go, oh, I can't do this. So you have to be really resilient. And I guess it's made me really grateful to the organisation that I worked with before, that they helped me build my network. So I'm so aware that if it wasn't for the company or companies that I've worked for previously, I wouldn't have the connections that I have. I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have, and I wouldn't have the skills that I have to be able to do this. So I guess it's a mixture of being frightened and worried if you're cut out for it, and also being incredibly grateful and excited about the future.
That's all right. So kind of back to COVID-19. What are the kind of main challenges that you've faced, and how have you tried to overcome them?
Yeah, so the main challenges have been, obviously live events are on hiatus at the moment. We don't know when we'll be able to do live events again, whether they're in large events at big conference agencies or smaller dinners. We just don't have a steer on when we'll be able to do that. So that has been a huge challenge of how to adjust the strategy for the business to make sure that we stay solvent at least, and to make sure that my team has work to do. One of the benefits of being a small agency is that we have been able to quickly adjust and refocus and be fairly agile in terms of our work output. So rather than planning events, physical events, we're learning a lot about digital solutions and digital marketing, and also trying to upskill ourselves and the events community for when we are allowed to do live events again. It's kind of learning about other things in the industry that we wouldn't have necessarily known about before. So what are the processes that venues have to go through to plan really good events? How do we implement sustainability? That kind of thing. So it has been challenging, but actually I think at the end of the day, it's going to have been a really valuable lesson.
And do you think once we're kind of back to normal, do you think online events and physical events will both kind of stand the test of time? Do you think there'll be a place for both of them in a kind of a new environment?
Yes, I think there will be. There's this new buzzword that has been floating around the industry the last few weeks called hybrid events. And I attended a webinar earlier this morning where the president of the BVEP, which is the Business Visits and Events Partnership, said that going forward into real life again, it will be on us to take the data of our attendees and use that to protect them. So whether we're, if we need to implement sort of sanitation practices, or we encourage people to attend online, there is a partnership with live and digital to make events an experience either way. And I think with this sort of newly upskilled audience, people who aren't used to doing sort of digital interactions, they'll know how to do that now. So that's a huge opportunity for event planners to build that into their experience design. So I do think, obviously, people are really missing human interaction, but it doesn't mean that digital takes over, or it doesn't mean that digital will disappear. I think it would just be going hand in hand as like mutual respect for each other.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so have you guys been running any kind of online webinars or events during the crisis?
Yeah, so one of the first things that I did when this hit, after a sort of mild panic attack, I sort of had to really address what my priorities would be. And one of those was upskilling myself and the team, as I said. And to do that, I started making a list of all the things that I wanted to learn about. And that kind of developed, and I decided to produce a weekly webinar series where I invite everybody and anyone from the events industry to learn about a part of the events industry that they wouldn't necessarily know about before. And those happen weekly, and so far we've had 5 of them. We've had one on technical AV production, one on catering, one on event staffing, one on the venue sales and operations process, and then today we had one on sustainability, which was so interesting. And actually it's been a really encouraging project to get together all sorts of people from the events industry. Some of those would have been furloughed or lost their jobs, and sort of create like a sub community where we can all talk and learn and kind of be there for each other, even though it's not face to face. And then on a second strand is that we have tried to respond to our clients' needs for communicating. In the absence of live events, we've developed some online roundtable discussions for clients so that they're still delivering events and still delivering communications tactics, but in a sort of newly digital and agile way.
And what advice would you give to somebody who's never joined like an online webinar or such? Like, would you recommend it?
Yes, I would. I think there are a lot of them now. I'd say do your homework and find the ones that you think will be positive. I've been on a few at the moment where it's been quite what's the word, ominous, like talking about the impact of COVID-19 and how terrible it's been. I think try and keep your attendance of those ones to a minimum, because it just makes you depressed, and try and look for some that are positive or you'll learn something. And on a practical note, I would say if you are on one that is interactive, just make sure that you know how to use your mute button, and secondly, make sure that you're wearing clothes and like you just know how you're coming across, because you've all seen those videos where people get up from their screen and they're wearing their pajama bottoms or something. I'd say show up as if you would to a business meeting, so that you feel confident and that you're just in the right frame of mind.
Nice, good advice. So obviously, events or live events industry is is struggling. What obviously you guys have you've had a look and kind of changed some of your practices up, and to deal with what's going on. What advice would you give to someone who's running a business, whether it's in the events industry or not, that's just a bit overwhelmed at the moment and not sure what to do?
I would say that this is a really challenging time, and I'm there myself. I find it very hard to be productive for 8 hours a day, just sitting in the same place, the same environment. I would say don't be so hard on yourself if you feel like you've only done 2 hours of work that day. Try and keep your tasks to something that's achievable. Don't guilt yourself. Like, you don't have to be productive every single day. List out some reasonably achievable tasks, and just take some time to you. It's okay to rest as well. Some of us are so burnt out that maybe this is a blessing in disguise. So take some time to rest if you can. And another piece of advice I would give is, if you have a team, is rather than just giving them like random bits to do if they're not on furlough, try and give them something that is worthwhile to contribute to. Make them part of the strategy going forward. Talk about all the cool things that you're going to do when life returns to normal, and just try and keep them engaged. Give them something that they know that they've helped in the long run to deliver.
So over communicate to staff.
Yeah.
And what's it like managing remotely? Is that something you were doing beforehand, or have you had to learn new skills and new ways of working with your staff?
Yeah, I've definitely had to learn this as a new skill. We've started using Slack, which is like a project management, team management thing, which has changed my world, and it's become like actually really useful. And I don't know why we didn't do it before, but I find that it's quite easy to be complacent as a manager. Just because you can't see your team doesn't mean that they're not doing anything. I think I need to trust them that they're busy like tapping away, and I don't need to babysit them. Equally, like it's the same as how I said before. When we're in the office, we're not sat at our desk for 8 solid hours. We might be chatting about what we did at the weekend. We might be getting coffee. We might have popped out for lunch. We might be taking a call. You don't necessarily have to fill your team's time with 8 hours worth of work, so long as they're doing something useful. But yeah, it has been challenging, and I think particularly staying positive can be hard in this weird time, particularly if they ask about what's going to happen if we can't do any events until next year. In which case I say, well, we're learning about digital marketing now. We're learning about this element, we're learning about that. So we're going to go and approach companies who might need this kind of support. So just kind of changing the strategy and reassurance that we do have the ability and the passion to change tactics and make it work.
Yeah, and you mentioned digital marketing there. I know you've redone, reskinned your website. What kind of digital marketing techniques are you using that you weren't before, or new things that you've learned that you could you could advise others to take a look at?
Yeah, so one thing that we're doing a lot of is trying to maintain our profile, particularly after winning our rewards and then suddenly going on lockdown, is maintaining our profile using social media and having an online presence, so like refreshing your content, write about something that inspires you, you know, go on Twitter, engage with people, you know, have things to write about that you think, oh, in the real world I'd be busy planning an event, so I couldn't write a blog. This is a perfect time to do that. And similarly for other businesses, if they're not operating as they usually would, they can research things and write about them and give their customers or their clients advice from their perspective. So I think, yeah, like it is an opportunity for sure.
And what's next for you then? So how does the next couple of weeks, months look?
So the next couple of weeks and months are, well, I'm trying to take it day by day at the moment, because I don't know what the events industry is going to look like at the end of the year, or even, you know, next year. So what I'm doing is learning, and I'm just going to try and keep in touch with my clients and say, we're still here. So when life returns to normal, you know, you can still count on us to deliver great experiences. We don't know when that will be, but when you're ready, we'll be ready. I think that's a reassuring thing to do to everyone, and say, you know, we are still ticking along, and we hope you're all right. So over the next few weeks and months, hopefully when lockdown starts to be lifted, I'm just going to start reaching out to my clients and my suppliers, and hopefully speak to them on chats, or hopefully meet them for coffee, and just try and kickstart again.
And for those that want to know a little bit more about Oddity and your and webinar series, where can they go to find out about that?
Sure. So they can visit our website, which is oddityevents.com, or simply oddity.events. And they can find us on LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn as Oddity Events. We're on Twitter as @OddityEM, and Instagram as oddity.events. And also, I'm quite active on LinkedIn as well, because I'm quite opinionated. You can't really shut me up. So yeah, just search for us and we'll be there ready to answer.
Great. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. I think it's you know, it's a difficult time for everyone, and learning about how businesses are coping and reacting to the situation is pretty inspirational. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.